Yeah, I think we're live on YouTube.
Yeah, we're live.
We'll start in a few minutes. You can drop in any questions that you have. We'll start answering them as soon as possible.
Hi, Gajendra. Hi, Chetan.
By the way, how's prep going? CET का क्या सीन है थोड़ा बता दो कैसा जा रहा है? Let's have a short discussion about that. We'll restart our CET lives in a couple of days. We just want to finish the main summer internship part first, and we'll go into the other part. अभी question मत पूछना कब date है वो सब. We have no idea about it. If we had known, then everyone would know. We don't have any special power over here.
So we've already started getting a couple of questions on CFA and whether that is appropriate. So we will be covering all of those aspects, and Anay himself cleared CFA L1. So he will be talking about that a bit more.
So hey guys, we'll just start off from now itself. Basically, the point of today's webinar was just to talk about what is required for finance internships and how you should prepare your CV according to it. In JBIMS, finance is the biggest domain. Most of the students take finance every year, and even the faculty is well known for finance. So it's one of the biggest things in JBIMS. At the same time, the prep required for finance, the students in JBIMS are usually engineers, and they don't have a lot of finance knowledge in that aspect. So for that, lots of questions are just asked about how to prepare for finance, because it's a very different thing, right? You need it on your CV and you need the knowledge. You can't just make it up on the spot. If you don't know the technical knowledge, you can't really get through interviews and everything after that. So just a short overview of the two of us. Ankit, he's ranked 2 in CET and he's interned at PwC. I interned at JP Morgan in the finance sector. So we've gone through a lot of these interviews during summers and otherwise. We've gone through a lot of things and we just want to share them information that we have. So Ankit, why don't we just get started with that? Do you want to add anything or should we just start?
Yeah, just one more thing. Both of us are specialized in finance itself in our MBA. And of course, both of us will be taking up finance jobs itself post our MBA is done. So we can provide you a good idea about how should you go about your finance preparation for your summers and what should be included in your CV and all of that. So yeah, let's get started.
Perfect. So essentially in finance, there are two things that you need to know. Like there are two separate parts of it. One is the knowledge and one is showing that you have knowledge. Now we'll be covering each and both of these aspects, because what you need in the interview is the knowledge, but what you need to get the interview is showing that you have the knowledge, right? These are the two main aspects, and this is how you should also be thinking about your prep so far. For example, I'll start with the easier part, showing that you have knowledge. I think that is easier because it just requires a few certifications here and there, or just internships, or even if you can do certifications like CFA, etc. But it's just that line on your CV that makes a difference, which gets you the shortlist. So the usual process for any company is that you submit your CV to them. They will go through the CV. They'll see if you have any kind of things that matter to them. the keywords, or whether you have finance knowledge. They'll check marks sometimes. The shortlist, the exact process is unknown, but they usually look at people who are going to fit the organization and the role. So once that is done through the CV. So if you have things in your CV, you can directly pass through that. After that, they have a couple of interview rounds. These can be either knowledge-based, where it will be a quiz, or they'll just check your aptitude, personality, etc. Or it can be an interview directly with the vice president or the president or the managing directors of companies, where they directly ask you questions. Now, we've had experiences here throughout all of this. So we've had different levels of people interviewing us. And what you need in the interviews is core finance knowledge. And that is where the second part comes in. So just to lay down what all you need for all of this, as I mentioned, in certifications, you need to be looking at Coursera, Udemy. Those certifications help a lot. But I would give the biggest caveat here that because of 2021 and 2022, most of the people have certifications. We have seen CVs where half the CV is full of, half the entire page is just full of certificates, because that is something that everyone was doing during the lockdown. We ourselves did a lot of it, but our summers was last year. So we had a lesser quantity compared to what people have right now. So rather than certifications, focus on getting internships. If you have time on your hand right now, apply for internships. Look at places where you want to work. This doesn't have to be a paid internship. I personally have done 4 internships, and one of it was paid. That was 5,000 rupees. So it wasn't really a big amount compared to what you'd be getting after an MBA. So don't worry too much about the money aspect of it. Just get the knowledge part done first. So an internship will be a lot more useful than a certification. And more than that, internship would be equal to a CFA as well. Because if you have a CFA L1 or an L2 or an L3, it is a direct stamp that yes, you have the information to pass this level and you've cleared it. You are in one of those few people who have actually studied and have got through. Although again, a caveat with the CFA would be that it is becoming more popular these days, but it's still something that is a good thing to have. Ankit, anything to add in this aspect, in this part?
Yeah. So like if you were to rank a priority order, a work experience in the finance field would of course get the highest priority, and that would be noticed by the recruiter, since you're going to sit for a finance job or a finance internship. If you've already worked in a finance domain, or academically, if you come from a finance background, of course, that will give you an advantage. After that, of course, as Anay said, the second most important thing would be doing some sort of an internship, whether it is paid or unpaid, in the finance field, or some sort of a finance role. It can be an FP&A role, it can be an investment banking role, it can be a corporate finance role. Try and search for these roles, say on LinkedIn or say on Internshala. You will get a lot of openings available from different companies. Nowadays, startups are looking to hire interns. So it's just that you have to actively search for these roles. It's not going to come to you sitting. So ensure that you make your profile on these portals, and you start searching, you apply those keywords and tags as to what kind of roles you're looking for. And of course, if an internship is not possible, you can try and think of giving CFA L1. So as compared to other usual certifications, CFA L1 will obviously have a higher weightage and higher priority, because you are actually covering all of your basic financial concepts that you require as part of your L1 curriculum. You'll be covering corporate finance, and Anay will be talking about this a bit more later, but you'll be covering corporate finance, you'll be covering debt, you'll be covering equity, you'll be covering economic statistics. All of your different things that you will require as a finance professional will be covered as part of your CFA curriculum. So if not that, then you should be able to at least think, or you can think and consider of giving CFA. But of course, there are a lot of factors. You have to give a lot of time to CFA, and there is a sizable amount of investment that is required to give the CFA exam. So be careful before you apply for the exam. Be careful if you can give that time and that commitment to clear the exam. And of course, if CFA is not possible, then at least for those who do not have any sort of a finance background, you have to get into those courses. Now, there are again 2 sorts of courses. One is a paid course and unpaid course. So I found the courses by CFI, Corporate Finance Institute, which are available for free on their website. The courses were pretty well made, to be honest. And since you don't have to pay for it, they have explained the concepts very lucidly, and they have used a lot of numericals and examples to highlight whatever are the different finance concepts that they're trying to cover. So that is one thing that I had used personally before my internship. Otherwise, you will get a lot of good courses, say on Udemy or Coursera also. And another website or another portal which covers the Indian side or Indian aspect of things is FinShiksha. So they provide that Indian touch, that Indian flavor, the Indian side of companies, the Indian companies that they help and make us understand, what are the financials of, say, in the FMCG sector or the chemical sector. So they cover those perspectives, and that also helps a lot. So I just wanted to give a rough priority order as to what is more important, what is less important. But if you don't have a finance background, at least try and get some courses done on your CV to show that you are inclined towards finance. Yeah, Anay.
That being said, even if you have a finance background, please make sure to enhance your CV with this, because just having a finance background will also not be enough. They need to see a lot of things that help make that decision, right? And I'm just trying to make the decision easier for them to hire you. That's the main idea here, right? So we'll just go over, as Ankit mentioned, we'll go over the second part now, the syllabus and what knowledge you need. Now, just as a overview, during my interview experiences, each and every one of them, I was asked technical finance concepts. I was asked how the balance sheet is structured, how cash flow is structured. I was asked about a couple of companies that I researched. I was asked about their ratios, why one ratio is considered over the other. I was asked why you'd select one financial statement over the other. A huge list of questions, but I think there were at least 20 or 25 questions that I was asked over those interviews. But the main idea over here is again that they will ask you and they will drill down on each and everything that you answer. If you give an answer and your technical concept is mistaken, it leaves a very bad mark, because then they think that this guy doesn't know much and they are hiring a candidate directly to start the job. So just to give a small experience of how my internship was, I started off around Feb. I knew that I'd got the internship at JP Morgan, Feb end rather, around March. And the internship was starting in April. Before that, they had given us around 1 month to study, and they provided us with modules and study content, which was worth like a complete month. It was huge. It was a huge resource. We had to constantly study it. This was after they had already grilled me in the finance interview. After that, for 1 month, they had given us a training module. After that, the first week of the internship, out of 8 weeks, the first week at JP Morgan was only how you should be. It was again training modules and again learning how the culture works, how you should be learning everything there. So in a sense, even after they knew that I knew finance, even after that, they trained me for a month alone where I had to do it myself, and then for a week with all the other interns. That's the amount of prep that they go through and how much effort is required from your end as well. And if you have knowledge, you make it very easy for them to decide whether they should take you or not. So I definitely suggest work on the knowledge. It is not something that comes easily. If you do it better right now, it'll be much easier later, right? So that's the reason why you need to know finance and the knowledge behind it, because it takes time to develop. Now, the questions about how you prepare. Now, since I've completed my L1, I know what the portion is, and I have no better place to recommend than CFA Schwezer books. I'll send the name in the chat. It's SCHWESER. These books are extremely good. They are succinct and you cover all the topics that are required. They might be a little new to everyone, but the more you read it, the better it gets. And the topics, as Ankit mentioned, you'll be covering all different topics, whatever you require during your summers. If there's an investment banking job, they have equity, M&A, all of that covered. If it's a corporate finance job, it's a complete different book on corporate finance. If supposing you are going towards credit, there's a complete book on fixed income and all securities related to that. There is no better source of in-depth information that you'll get. And even if you do courses and everything, I think this is the best way. If you increase your knowledge, courses and internships become very easy to clear. You can even apply for internships because while talking to the interviewer, you'll know and they will know that you have the information. So that communication becomes a lot easier. So to bridge that gap, do these books. If not, the CFA books. And if you're not, I'm not saying, I mean, if you have the resources and if you have the time and money to spend, please take CFA. In case you don't, I would still suggest buying the Schwezer books and making sure you go through them, because it'll help you increase your knowledge like crazy. At the same time, on YouTube, there's a channel called IFT, Irfanullah. He makes CFA L1 videos. They are free of cost. So just watch them. He will explain all concepts to you very fast and very easily. So if you're starting right now and you have time to prep, I would definitely say do this.
Anay, just one small thing. Is it there on YouTube or is it there on Irfanullah's own website?
Both.
Both,
so
okay.
The complete course is on his website, but almost 60 to 80% of it is freely available on YouTube. I think a small part of it will be on the website, which you can go there and check. I had watched everything on YouTube otherwise. So both are fine. Anything works. Just make sure that you refer to it. It's a very good source of material, right? Apart from this, when it comes to knowledge, if you don't have that much time, let's say your summers are starting within the next month or next week or so, for that, I would say that there are certain topics that are tested more than the others. For example, the core of finance is the financial statements. It is the language of finance. It is how finance is communicated, how you read reports, how people estimate businesses, how everything works is only from financial ratios and financial statements. So if you don't have any time at all, please focus on articles that explain financial ratios and financial statements. You'll find a plethora of these. I think Zerodha has a varsity page where they explain this very nicely. That was the first thing that I read. In fact, that was my introduction to financial statements, and I've done that around a year or two ago. So that's why right now I know it properly. So that's why I'm saying if you start right now, within a week or two, you should be good with the concepts. And if you've already done a little bit, it'll be done much faster. Apart from that, you get a lot of articles. Like for example, the base of finance, as I mentioned, is the financial statements, financial ratios, the terms that you need. Apart from that, business understanding is very important. And for business understanding, you need to understand how a corporate functions, where they raise money from, the debt and equity portion, how that is also raised, what the differences between debt and equity are. You need to, so a debt and equity is two ways of raising money. Debt is something that you need to repay back. Equity is something you sell. If you watch Shark Tank, I'm sure they've covered these concepts as well. So it's a fun way of covering finance as well. Apart from that, a lot of equity, you've seen how the stock market is booming. You need to know what the equity concepts are, how a company is valued, what a cash flow is. You need to know what the methods of valuing a company are. If you cover all of this, it at least gives you a level playing field. And then based on the role, you should go into things and explore that further. Just the basic understanding of finance also will help you get through a couple of interviews. But I would still suggest if you have time, go for in-depth studying of it. Ankit, anything to add here? Sorry if I took a long time. Okay.
No, that's all right. It's good you're covering all of the important things. So just a couple of things. Understanding the core finance concepts and doing these courses is very, very important. But also to be able to retain these concepts and what you're studying, you should be able to understand the real world applications. So firstly, my suggestion is definitely read a business newspaper. Start reading a business newspaper every day. I personally read The Mint, and I have been reading it since a long time. I find it very easy to read. They explain what the articles and whatever the information they're trying to provide very clearly. The infographics are pretty well made. So definitely try and read the business newspaper, because just studying those concepts, just understanding what's a liquidity ratio, what is a current asset, non-current asset, that is one aspect. But unless and until you start understanding the real world applications, which companies are under a lot of debt, which sector is facing some pressure because of COVID-19, all of these factors, you will be able to start relating to these concepts even more. So ensure that you pick up a business newspaper of your choice, whether it is Financial Express or Economic Times or The Mint or whichever you prefer, but make that a daily habit. And another source that I would like to recommend, which is like a 5-minute read every day, is FinShorts. Now, FinShorts is a very, very, very well written one article a day is what they provide you, covering basically current affairs topics related to finance. So anything in the finance world or the business world, or anything that is important, they explain that very clearly, very lucidly as to what is really happening, what is the situation, what could be the future outcome, and just 5 minutes a day. So that is also definitely something that I would recommend, and just develop this over time, so that even sometimes during the interviews, they may of course ask you your finance base. They will try to understand what is your financial understanding, what are the basics you've covered, but they may also try and understand if you're updated with the current affairs related to business news or finance news, and they may question you. So I remember during my interview with PwC, I had told them that I'm interested in the mutual fund industry, and I had done some sort of a study project also related to the mutual fund industry. So immediately the interviewer picked on to that point, and he asked me a current affairs topic related to the mutual fund industry, which was the Franklin Templeton issue that had taken place, where they had defaulted on few of their debt mutual funds. And he grilled me and asked me 2 or 3 questions on that. So if I hadn't been reading the newspaper, or if I wasn't aware of what was happening in the mutual fund industry during that time, I wouldn't have been able to answer the question, and that would have given a very bad impression that I'm interested in the sector, in this industry, and I have knowledge about that, but I'm not reading up enough about that. So that is why try and ensure and build this habit that you are up to date and you have that awareness about different things happening in the finance world and business world. So yeah, Anay.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that helps a lot because even in a short time, you need to prepare the best. So you need to know everything. Current affairs is very important. They ask a lot of these things. Even if they see a small word on your CV, they can ask you about it. That tell me what's happening today. Or right now, crypto is booming. Everyone will be asked about crypto in the next. I think any interview so far, interviews over the next few months or even years, based on how it goes. But crypto will definitely be asked lots of questions about that. Guys, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. The last part that I would like to talk about is the job opportunity after finance. There are many different things over here. The most important, the most common thing that you hear about is investment banking. That's where the glamour is most of the times. And these are usually bulge bracket firms like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, etc. These are big MNCs, and the work over here is mainly creating pitch decks. You create a pitch deck for a merger that's happening, and how JP Morgan does this is basically they'll have a geography, North America. This is the same for my role as well. But they'll have a geography like North America, EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, or Asia, or countries in Asia. And for every country or geography, they'll have a specific industry that they cater to. So I was working in the North America tech, media, telecom, communication, a telecom communication division. So what they have to do is basically any deal that takes place, you'd be making a pitch deck and sending it to the front office at that end, and they would be communicating with the client. That's how IB works. But essentially, you need to keep in mind that the hours required here are quite large. You have to spend a lot of your time over here. And I think Ankit is the best person to talk about work-life balance and how time has to be managed best. Apart from this, you have different other roles, let's say on the corporate finance side, where you'll be doing a much more relaxed job. It'll be less stressful, hours will be better. And in my honest opinion and what I've understood at this point of time, I think corporate finance requires a lot more skills because you are actually thinking about what the business organization needs rather than making pitch books. You are actually implementing projects firsthand and seeing how to raise money, how to cut down taxes, how to manage taxes, everything, where your CSR activities should be. It requires a lot more in-depth financial knowledge. Not that IB doesn't, but I think in the day-to-day, a corporate finance person is doing a more specialized thing compared to an IB or a credit risk or credit role. That's my personal opinion. And based on you, where you want to go, you need to decide which job you are looking for, based on your work-life balance, what you want to do in the future, how many hours you're willing to give, what kind of work you want to do as well. Like, based on each and every aspect, you need to decide where you want to go. And apart from this, you have roles at banks. These are relationship management roles, or you'll be doing things like equity research. That is also another type of role that is there after MBAs. There are lots of different roles, but the best tip I can give in this entire session is going on LinkedIn and seeing profiles of people who've graduated from colleges, see where they're working now, if possible, reaching out to them nicely and asking them for a small chat, see what they say, see what their life is like, what their work is like. You can find a lot of resources. We've also taken a lot of interviews of people who've worked in organizations. But obviously, this was before CET. But lots of things that can give you a lot of guidance over what exactly is done in the role, and that I think helps a lot. I think that helped me put a lot of perspective as to which role I should go for. I think that's the best you can do. Ankit, anything on the jobs front?
Yeah. So one thing that many people are at times confused. So at times people are confused as to which specialization also to choose between finance and marketing. And then within marketing also people are not always sure as to what role will suit them or what kind of company will provide what sort of role during placements, etc. So my only suggestion for that is try and read up beforehand itself. Like once you start getting into the world of finance and once you start understanding finance concepts, basics, etc. better, along with that, start understanding what are the different roles that say a company X would provide, or what is a role that a bank would provide, or say an FMCG company would provide in the field of finance. So when you start having that sort of an idea, then you can do what Anay has said, that you can start reaching out to people, you can talk to them, they will provide you a better perspective. Because sitting here, we don't understand the day-to-day work, say even what an investment banker does, or what someone working as a relationship manager does, or a credit analyst does. So the only way you can be able to understand that better is if you start reaching out to people. Say you feel you may have an inclination towards equity research sort of roles. So maybe reach out to someone who's working in that or who has worked in that field for say a year or two or whatever, and talk to that person. Ask him or her what is your day-to-day activity is like, how stressful is the job, how rewarding is the job, all of that. Only then will you be able to get a better idea. So that is what we all have done, and that is why we have been able to reach that decision and that conclusion as to this is the field that we want to work in, or this is the industry we want to work in. And accordingly, we have prepared and done it in that sense. So yeah, just be mindful about that. Don't become all haywire and don't get all confused, because it's easy to get confused with so many different verticals and roles coming in and different companies offering different kinds of roles. So just be a bit mindful of that.
Right. So you can start taking questions now. This was what we had to give on the knowledge front, but yeah, please leave any questions. We'll start answering all of them now. So can we do CFA or FRM along with MBA? Yes, a lot of people do it with in-person MBA as well. I have done my CFA L1 in an online mode, so that was a little bit easier because I didn't need to travel. But there are people who travel a lot and have still finished all 3 levels of CFA and also done FRM. So if you have the dedication and the time, if you're willing to give it the time, I know people who've done a lot in 2.5, 3 years. So.
But please just understand what is a CFA and what is FRM and which certification or which course is going to be useful where. Like people just set out to do a CFA or an FRM just seeing that it adds value to your CV. So just don't do it for that sake. Try and understand what is the syllabus covered in CFA or what is it in FRM. Do you want to get into the risk side of things, or do you want to work say equity research or investment banking side of things? Then you would do a CFA. So try and understand those things. Don't do a certification or something that is going to require a lot of investment just by thinking that it is going to be a CV pointer and you can use that to talk about in your interview. Just understand what is required for what sort of role or domain, etc.
Yeah, just so you know, CFA costs around 80 to 1 lakh based on when you buy it in the window. So 80,000 is definitely that's the minimum amount that you can spend for a CFA. So that's why just keep in mind that it's a huge investment and the time required also is a lot. It's a lot of syllabus to cover. There are 10 books that you need to finish, 10 overall chapters, subjects that you need to finish. And even though there are only 3 options in the final exam, or they get really tricky at times. So I would say prep is very important in that. And the recent passing rates have been around 20%. It used to be 40% earlier. Now it's gone down to a 20-25%, or I think the last one was 30. So, it's in that range. So be very well aware of all these facts, because that should play a role in your decision making. Julie has asked, hello, I'm currently working in an investment bank. Can I easily get summer internship on basis of my experience? That's what. Whatever's on your CV can only help you get a shortlist. Everything that happens after a shortlist in the interview and the quiz phase is based on your knowledge. And if you're already in an investment bank, is it a finance role? Is it a technical role? That makes a very big difference, because you can be in JP Morgan Tech, but it might not help you out as much if you were in JP Morgan Finance. Just a general thing. But of course, if you're in a good brand and if the interviewer also knows, if the recruiter also knows about the brand you've worked with, it always helps. It always leaves a good mark. Gajendra has asked, I'm a fresher, I have interest in finance, I'm also a trader. What extra qualifications do I need to get into IB? Qualifications wise, it's not qualifications that you need, it's knowledge it's knowledge that you require the most. For IB, they again are looking for lots of the roles need WorkX as well. So just keep that one thing in mind, that the higher roles do need WorkX. They do look for WorkX, and it's a direct no if you don't have WorkX. So that one thing keep in mind. This is only certain roles. Okay, I'm not saying all roles need WorkX. I'm a fresher, so it's not like that. So it's not a fixed thing. But at the same time, some of them would require it, not a qualification, but you need knowledge of finance. Right now, work on finance. IB, whatever role comes, it is going to help you later. So rather than targeting one thing, keep a plethora of options open, because you don't know how shortlists work on the last day. When you're sitting for summers, let's say in an MBA college, you don't control what order the companies are going to come in, or which companies give you a shortlist. It's not in your control basically. So just prepare for everything as much as you can.
Rosie has asked, is financial modeling good for finance internship? So definitely, like financial modeling is one of the next steps after you cover your basics and concepts related to your financial statements, which are balance sheets, P&L, cash flow, and you cover your corporate finance, financial ratios. Once you get an understanding of all of these things, the next logical and step in the progression is to do something related to financial modeling. It does become a bit advanced, but for an internship stage. But if you can reach that level, and if you can actually sit by yourself and create some sort of a financial model for a company, it will reflect very good on whatever you have covered, whatever concepts you have done, that you've been able to grasp and understand that, and you're actually being able to apply that for some sort of a real world scenario where you're predicting future cash flows or the future stock price of a company. So from that perspective, if you're able to even doing a financial modeling course or creating a financial model of your own as part of some study project, it will definitely reflect well on your CV. But then be prepared to be you will be asked questions accordingly related to that. So you should be able to answer those questions. Like, just don't pick up someone else's model, ready-made model, say from LinkedIn or anything, and just paste it on your CV that you've done this, because you will not be able to answer the questions if you've not done it on your own. You definitely won't be able to answer. So be mindful of that.
They go very much in depth with assumptions that you make with any model that you've done. If it's on your CV, if you've written any data about it, they can ask you and be ready for that. So that's why, obviously, and you get a lot of financial models online. Like, there's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, as Ankit mentioned. You can just write your email in the comment, you'll get the model, but that's not ideal. Do it yourself, show that you have the information, it helps a lot. Rutuja, about mocks, I think genuine attempts, you can watch our first webinar for this answer from all 6 of us, but we'll stick to the finance questions today. Just wanted to address that. I did not join any classes for CFA. I just did it myself, but I had dedication that, I'll be able to manage the hours and everything with college. And in fact, with the JP Morgan internship, like, I kind of knew that I'll be able to do it. Although I finished around 40% of the portion in the last month, I would recommend you to finish it a month before. So if you're able to do that, I think you should clear it. Like, keep that aim. It'll be a lot more relaxed as well. But yeah, I hadn't joined classes. Piyush, would you recommend getting some work-ex in the field of finance? See, the thing is, if you are an engineer right now, it's very difficult to just go into finance and get work-ex there. That becomes a very tough thing. If you're able to do it, great. It's good for you then. But if you're getting a job in finance directly, that means you already have the knowledge, right? How can they just give you a job in finance without having any information about finance? So anyway, it's steps. And MBA is also a step in your career. All of this is a step in your career. Think about where you want to reach. That's why, as I mentioned, look upon LinkedIn where people are, how they have done their things, how much experience they had. You'll always find people who've done it, and just figure out how you want to go about it. And that's the only thing I can say. There's no direct recommendation. Although I think work-ex in finance will help an MBA in finance definitely. Like, if you have the knowledge and work-ex, your shortlist will also be comparatively easier. And anything that, Ankit?
Yeah, nothing. It's more like, if you have work-ex, then be expected to be grilled more related to finance, because you worked in that domain and you are expected to have some sort of finance knowledge. So, but it's not a very compulsory thing. Or we have seen people who are engineers or people from economics background or some other BMS background, they do get finance internships and finance jobs as well. So not a compulsion.
I have below 16 acads. Will I even be shortlisted? See, the shortlisting for any company, irrespective whether it's consulting, finance, marketing, operations, everything is we don't know what it is. So people call it random. It's not random. There is a method to it, but we don't know what the method is. And honestly, we don't go around asking every student in the batch whether they got a shortlist or not. So there's no way we can see their CVs and then think, "Acha, iska mark kam tha, uske liye nahi aaya." There's nothing that we can do about that. You just sort of keep applying. And as you mentioned, Pramendra did overcome that. So it's fine. Like, Pramendra's story. In case you haven't, then please watch his interview. It's one of the best interviews we've taken on our channel. So please watch it. But people overcome that. Don't think about it too much. Like, he was also able to do it. In fact, we'll ask him if he wants to come for a live one of these days. If you want him to answer questions. But yeah, don't think too much about shortlists. That's why build on the knowledge, put it on your CV, just submit everywhere, hope for the best. Like, submit everywhere that you want to work, and just hope for the best. That's all we can say in this. It's a random. There is a process to it, but from our end, it seems random sometimes because we don't know what it is. Again, same thing between 50 and 55% in 12th and 1 year work-ex. The repercussions we don't know, although some companies would have a criteria for higher marks. That's definitely true. Lots of consulting companies have higher marks criteria. I don't think finance has that much in comparison.
Indranil has suggested that Aswat Damodaran's YouTube channel can also be looked at for covering finance. Yes, definitely. He's like one of the gods of financial modeling and covering financial statements and all. So definitely you can look at his YouTube channel and look at his course also, which is freely available. He teaches at in New York University, right? Yeah. So definitely you can look at that, but of course try and gain a bit of basic understanding before you get into his YouTube channel or his course or something, and then maybe you can look into it.
He is a little complex though. That's why complex means it is directly the financial language and everything that you need directly in depth. So it becomes a little tough to understand directly if you don't have any base in finance. But first, finish off what we've suggested, the varsity thing at Zerotha, or even if you read through the CFA financial statement book, you'll get a lot better understanding of what he's explaining. But yeah, he's a god in valuation and finance. In fact, the funny thing is one of my friends is learning from it at NYU currently. So it's crazy the way he teaches. It's amazing. There's no better source, but it's again for a higher level. Thanks, Ivanshu. Nice to know. I'm from IT sector. I have interest in finance. See, there's about courses apart from CFA, Udemy, and Coursera courses. There is no particular course that is going to cover all of finance. You can do courses, but again, this is more from a knowledge perspective. Recruiters will not see names of courses and think, "Wow, this guy knows this topic. Let's hire him." It is, as we mentioned, certifications are the last priority. Above that, internships, WorkX, CFA, all that comes in that order. It comes above certifications. So when you're doing a certification, just think, मैंने ये topic किया है कि नहीं? अगर नहीं किया है तो सीख लो. Just उतना करो. Don't think about it from your CV perspective. Get your knowledge. Look for internships. That's the best thing you can do. That's the biggest difference in your entire career. Don't look at certifications as your hope for clearing everything right now. That's all. As I mentioned, lockdown, everyone was doing certification, so that won't be a differentiation next year. Just keep that in mind.
Sanket has asked how many IB roles are available in JBIMS. So we can't give you an exact figure as such, but we do get a few IB roles in JBIMS. But yeah, you have to understand that IB roles are very restricted in nature, and not all B schools actually have investment banks or in IB roles coming to them. But yeah, JBIMS is one of the few lucky B schools, and with the finance it is very well known for finance. So we do get a few IB roles coming to JB as well. And you can see more details in the placement report that comes out.
Rutuja asked Ankit the question, is it necessary to buy certification of CFI?
See, Rutuja, you don't need to buy certifications as such. So what I was saying is to cover the basics of finance, those certifications are freely available. I think financial ratios or reading financial statements, accounting fundamentals, these are some of the courses which are freely available. If you like that, and if you feel you want to invest more into that course, it costs around 14 to 15K. You can apply for scholarship and stuff also. And I think they do give it out. I mean, it is possible to get that scholarship also. So see it, because I particularly like the way they presented the entire coursework, and they used examples and they gave you some sort of a quiz and test and covered all of those concepts. Really helped in my learning. So if you feel, you try out the free courses. If you feel it is helping, you can go into the other paid courses as well, and maybe you can take up the entire FMBA certification. And I think it will definitely, if you are looking to get into finance, then CFI's courses are pretty well designed from that perspective. So just have a look, and if it is not too costly, or if you feel you can afford it, then you can maybe give it a try. But first, try out the free courses.
Yeah, I agree. I think CFI is a good source. I'm currently working in a software role in a bulge bracket bank. Will this WorkX be beneficial for finance placements? Guys, as we mentioned, whatever's on your CV currently is just what is going to help you in the shortlist. Yes, it'll help you up to some extent, but again, it's a software role. So if they're looking for keywords, they would not have keywords because you're working in a tech role right now. So they won't have the keywords for finance. That's why I look for internships and certifications and CFA for that. That's a short answer to each and every question about their work-ex and how it should be,
How are asset management opportunities at JBIMS? Yes, we do get a few roles for asset management as well. Again, not getting into the details as such, but yeah, overall JBIMS, we do have all of the major finance roles coming, whether it is investment banking, whether it is asset management, whether it is wealth management. In banking, you will have equity, you will have credit risk analyst, relationship manager, you will have equity research, you will have in debt markets, you will have a couple of roles coming in. FP&A, which is financial planning and analysis, and that can be from any industry whatsoever. It can be from FMCG, e-commerce. So you have a lot of different roles coming in. So don't worry about that. But yeah, you look at the placement reports and you will get a better idea as to what companies are coming in. And then maybe sometime they do mention about what kind of roles have also come, but we cannot be dwelling into the details as of now.
You guys just keep one thing in mind. If you're in a good brand, you can always switch roles later. Don't worry too much about that, even if you're not in asset management right now. For example, when I was at JP Morgan during the internship, we had a session with I think Yash, I forgot his surname, but he's a JB alum, and he's currently heading asset and wealth management at JP Morgan in India. So it's like he didn't start off there. He started off in a different role, but he's reached there after a couple of years. So in case you harbor any aspirations for a particular role, and they don't come to a particular college that you are in, you can always switch later. That's why I think Harshad asked this question to Aditya and me when we were in a live a couple of days ago. Would you prefer, what is more important, brand or role? And we had answered brand, because you can always grow in the organization later and take different things. So that's the biggest takeaway. I think just keep that one thing in mind. You can always, like a couple of years later, you can switch into different verticals. Don't worry about that too much. Even if they don't come to college right now. So don't worry about the college part right now. Parth, I'm 21 and a fresher right now, preparing for CFA as well as FRM. Is there a bad strategy to first complete the degrees, then start working? Honestly, I haven't understood why it would be a bad strategy. I mean, you are gaining knowledge, you're doing certifications. I doubt it makes a difference. I would like to understand more about why you think why it's even a doubt in your mind. Ankit, if you have anything, please let me know. Because I don't see anything wrong with it at all. Like, there's nothing to worry about here. So if you want to go and explain more, please let me know.
No, I think we would need more clarity as to what is his future outlook, and I'm not sure why is he pursuing CFA and FRM both together, which is fine if he wants to, and if both are his interests. But no, I don't think it's a bad strategy as such. It is completely upon you and what suits you and how you want to go about your career planning.
Yeah, like CFA is more for general roles, while FRM leads you to more risk roles. It's financial risk management. I mean, that's the name. So, and CFA is financial analyst. So it's like finance, and see the subjects. Like when you directly see the subjects, you'll know what the different things are. You know that one has a lot more general, and CFA is like a 10-meter wide and 3-meter deep thing, while FRM will be 3 meters. It's 3 meters wide and 10 meters deep. Like you'll focus completely on one thing and a lot of that. So keep why you want to do each and every one. While you see, there are people who do both. There are people who have done CFA all 3 levels, FRM all 2 levels. Then they look for jobs. It's up to you. Just make sure that your decision making is correct and don't burn out by doing so much. That's the only thing. About my internship experience, I suppose I'll take this first. At JP Morgan, it was an 8-week internship. I was in the credit risk division of their corporate and investment bank. That is one of the verticals there. And as I mentioned, the geographies were divided according to the continent and which industry you were in. So I was in North America, tech, media, telecom. My mentor was 28 years old. He's a VP at JP Morgan. And one of the best mentors, I think, in the entire group. I had a very good time over there. My team had 7 people. 3 of us were based in India, 7 including me, and 4 were based in USA. So huge global exposure, even in the team. Apart from this, I was interacting with people across geographies. Like we had the other person at JP Morgan with me from JBIMS who was working in Europe. She was working in London. Her interactions were with people in Paris, Bulgaria, just everyone in Europe. Everybody is just a complete different thing. I was interacting with people from Canada, North America, constantly seeing companies over there and assessing what they were doing. My work was mainly assessing deals at so JP Morgan is a bank, as you know, is the 5th largest bank in the world. And they give out loans to corporates, they give out loans to governments, they give out loans to non-profits. And each loan has an expiry, has an interest that they charge. We used to work with the IB debt team in order to facilitate their front-end transactions and everything that they were doing. It was I had so just to give a small glimpse of what we were working on. The total transaction that I've worked on over there was around $20 to $25 billion. This would be the total transaction size that we worked on over time. I can't get into details because that was confidential, but overall, this is what we were working on. And this is the deal size that we were working with. So as an intern at 22 at that time and 23 now, it was a great experience seeing such a huge amount for the first time and getting to work on such a big thing. Like I was just like, wow, people deal in billions so easily. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And just the work over there was mainly modeling and going through what the risk would be of the company, and thinking whether JP Morgan wanted such a thing on their balance sheet or not. That was the main job. We had as interns, we had a couple of case competitions as well, where we had to present to VPs, to executive directors. We had, in those 8 weeks, we had around 16 to 20 sessions with high-level finance professionals. So we had sessions with the CEO of JP Morgan India, Madhav Kalyan. And this was, when I say it's a session, it is like he is one and we are 20 or 25 individuals. So you could directly ask him what you wanted. And the thing about JP Morgan is that you can directly speak to them with their first name. So it's directly Madhav. It's not Madhav sir or anything like that. If you're speaking with someone who is, there was this man who is 60 and 30 years into working. He's the head of risk in India, and first name basis. He's very old and very learned, like very experienced, but only first name basis. If you call him sir, if you say anything like that, he won't answer the question first, make you redo the entire thing with his first name, then go along with it. But we had this session with Catherine McGarvey. She's third in line from Jamie Dimon, and this was only 13 of us. 13 of us were sitting with her. 13 interns in my division were sitting directly with her and asking all the questions that we had, what her life story was like, learning how she grew in her career. And I think being in JP Morgan, their intern experience is one of the best. I enjoyed those 8 weeks. Like I literally felt bad on the last day of the internship that I won't be having access to it anymore for the time being. So I really felt bad on that day that this is going away, but it was a great experience. No, nothing bad at all. Like literally nothing bad at all. The best 8 weeks I've had in my life. And for a fresher, without any kind of WorkX and knowing how finance is in India, how competitive it gets, I think JP Morgan has the greatest culture. I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, you can clearly tell that I'm very enthusiastic about this. So yeah.
That's great to know. So I'll also talk a bit about my internship experience. So I interned at PwC as a management consulting intern. So it was not a core out and out finance internship. And as part of consulting, you are required to deal with a client. So I worked with a client in the agrochemicals sector. And so there I worked as part of the customer consulting division. I was required to prepare a digital transformation and digital marketing strategy for the client, which is in the agrochemical sector, because that sector in itself is very native or very new in terms of social media and digital marketing and digital transformation. So they were trying to revamp that entire field of theirs, and they wanted to develop an out and out strategy as to how they can maybe onboard farmers directly for buying seeds and pesticides directly on their platform, on their online channels or on their app, and how they can directly become, say, a kind of a D2C brand directly and without involving any sort of middleman or distributor. So that was one aspect that I had to look at. And as part of consulting, another thing that is very common is you may have to do some sort of surveys, which is primary survey or secondary survey. So I had to actually do a primary survey among farmers, where I had to actually pick up my phone and call up farmers from 3 different states and actually try to understand what is the farmer journey, or what is it that basically interests them, what are they looking for from a particular product, say a pesticide or say some sort of a seed. What is the landholding area, and understanding their digital consumption habits. Are they using YouTube a lot? Are they using Facebook a lot? So once you get these data points, then you can understand better as a company as to where you can target those ads and how you can curate particular ads according to particular farmers, say with a particular income level or particular geography or something of that sort. So a primary survey was also something that I had to do. And apart from this, I also had to work on a generic PwC related project, which was some sort of a consumer insight survey that they carry out every year. So for that as well, I had to devise the survey questionnaire that was required to be floated across across different people. And it was around common products as to what consideration or what factors do you take into account while, say, purchasing a mobile phone or an air conditioner or a washing machine. So these are the different factors, and these are the different 2-3 different projects that I had to work on as a management consulting intern. Just going a bit away from finance, like consulting in itself has a lot of pros where you get that client interaction where you don't, which is not something that is very common in other fields and other verticals. So as being a consultant, just getting to interact with clients, and I got to present my entire project in front of my client, the entire proposal that I had made. So that was a very, very enriching experience. And just as a consultant, you get to work across different projects and different verticals. So it is, it is a very enriching and rewarding experience. And definitely I enjoyed my stint at PwC, and but I realized that I was always more inclined towards finance, and I was always thinking of building a long-term career in the field of finance itself, especially corporate finance. So that is why when I got a PPO from the company, I did not accept the PPO. Because I was very sure that work-life balance matters to me, and I was just more in having an always that eye for quantitative numbers and calculations, and just enjoying those sort of things, data interpretation. I just wanted to get into the finance vertical itself, so I did not take up the consulting offer, and I sat for final placements, and now I have got a finance role as part of a corporate as got a corporate finance role. So yeah, it is all about you. It is very important to be self-aware and understand what you really want to do and what you don't want to do. Don't come under peer pressure and just if you see 30 people are sitting for one particular role or one particular role or one particular company, then you also have to go for the same. Try and understand what is it that you like or what is it that you want from your career, and accordingly make that decision for yourself. So that is just something that I wanted to highlight.
When Ankit and I were discussing the PPO thing, when he had that, I was like, this is crazy, but I think it's paid off really well. So kudos to you, Ankit.
Yeah.
And, just a shout out to Asrar over here. He's in the chat. He's a batchmate at JBIMS. And he's probably the only person who's actually had like batch interaction, the best batch interaction. He's had the biggest feel of an offline MBA compared to all of us. So yeah, Asrar, thank you for being here. Yeah. We'll just answer a few questions fast. We'll end the session in a couple of minutes, but we'll just go over a few questions as soon as possible. A relative of mine said finance is not a very good option for women since long hours of work. Hence, she said, go for HR. Kulkarni MS has asked this. I think even in finance, there is work-life balance, as Ankit has mentioned. And if you prioritize that, you'll get jobs in jobs that have that. You can apply to only the roles where you're getting work-life balance. And when it comes to women, I think women sometimes know finance better than men do. Like whenever I speak with my friends, they like my girlfriend also especially, she knows finance a lot easier than I do, and she didn't need the technical information or the business knowledge for that. And it's just without that, it's just much better. Like I think it's a complete this thing. Women should definitely be doing finance as well. You should definitely go for it, but it's up to you again. Based on what you want to do. Don't think, as Ankit mentioned, don't see what other people are doing. Don't see the roles that other people are applying to what they are going for. Look at what you want to do and how you want to go about it. Don't fall into the peer pressure trap. You can find your career wherever you want it, even later on in life. So just keep that in mind. What all hedge funds come on campus and what profiles do they offer? I don't think hedge funds go to any campus, in fact. Hedge funds are niche roles that come after a couple of years of finance and working in finance, and it's more like a lateral switch. Hedge funds are very rare to see in organizations. Hedge fund roles or private equity roles are more your own work than the college's work. So just keep that one thing in mind. And if they do come, they come for maybe operations roles, not finance specifically, because they have other colleges to go for. They have other roles, they have so many financial professionals applying that they don't need to come to colleges. They have such a huge demand there, at least. Manthan, can I opt for MBA Finance if you have an interest, basic knowledge, BMS. I think, yeah, BMS with HR, I don't think it makes a very big difference as long as you can show why you want to do finance. For example, there was a junior a couple of days ago who has done marketing, who has in fact done teaching, like an education consulting kind of thing. And after that, he wants to do finance. And as long as you have a good reason that puts you there in front of the interviewers and says that, yeah, I want to do finance for sure, it's fine. That's where the business knowledge comes into it, where you can talk about how your edge over the others is knowing the marketing side of things, knowing the operation side or the consulting side of things. That gives you a much better edge. For example, Ankit, as he has already worked on consulting, he'll be able to help his organization a lot more. He knows how surveys are done. He knows how to take feedback, how to interpret data, which with someone who's only done finance all their life will not be able to. At the same time, his chemical engineering experience, that also will help over here. It's a very different thing. Like, you have to showcase that yeah, I can help you out. It might not really help you out directly in the role, but you have to try to bring out aspects that will. Shreekanth is here as well. Wow, Sanket, wow. I think the entire JB batch is here. Wow. Harshad also here. Nice. Everyone's in the chat. It feels like we're conducting a JB lecture right now. But nice to see you guys here. Thanks. We'll just take a few more answers. Ankit,
Steve Austin has asked one question related to job profile of a risk analyst. So in very short and very brief, one job as a risk analyst, of course, you have to analyze the company's financial performance, because to be able to understand the risk appetite or the risk worthiness of the company, you have to know the financial performance. So analyzing the past financial business performance and also benchmarking this against peers within that industry, as well as projecting future performance. This is the basic thing that you will be required to do as a risk analyst. But apart from this, the next steps are, you have to undertake credit risk analysis of not just the company, but also the industry, which incorporates doing some sort of business research, and financial analysis of maybe comparable companies, assigning ratings to those companies, preparing credit reports to capture the rationale behind what sort of rating you have given for a particular risk type for that company. You have to be able to have those sort of data analytics and data analytics tools and data analytics skills as well, to be able to encapsulate all of the whatever suggestions or whatever recommendations you are making as in terms of the credit rating side of things.
Yeah, I think that covers all of it. I'll just go. I think Parth has sent a message about how Parth was the one who's doing CFA, FRM, and the fresher. So he's speaking about how freshers are less valued over experienced ones. That's why that. But I think if you feel so, you'll still be a fresher with a lot of certifications, good certifications, and just work for a year or two. Then you'll get the job you want, right? I mean, it's about eventually getting the job. It's about the career path that gets you there. Not necessarily. It's not, as I mentioned, go on LinkedIn, see how people go. People get to the same place with very different routes. So just keep a track of how people are doing it. Don't worry so much about it. If you're doing a productive thing, great. Do the productive thing. Don't think so much about it. The order of it might not matter as much, right? We'll just take, if there are any other questions, I think how to obtain operation supply chain internship. We honestly don't know, but we can call people from our batch and ask them to take it. That'll be a much better thing than this. And yeah, for all the other requests of lives, we'll be having a lot of lives soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll be doing a lot of live. I saw one request for Nayan and Pramendra also, so we will try and get them on also for a YouTube live, and you can ask all of your questions and queries related to CET and MBA to them.
Perfect. Thank you guys for being here. I hope this has been useful to you. Thank you, Ankit. It's been a good session.
Thank you, Anay.
Almost more than an hour. So if there are any questions, guys, leave it in the comments. We'll be reading over there anything that you want to ask. And yeah.